Here we go.
Good morning. My name is Diana Famia. I'm the chair of the National Organization of Italian American Women. And I'm really happy to see people coming from various states around our USA. And to the person from New Jersey, I'm a Jersey girl too, but right now I'm living in Washington. Uh, I am happy that we're having Cathy Coluccio Fazzoleri speak to us today. This is her book. If you have it already, great. I have it, and my niece and nephew wanted it, so I bought them copies too. So anyway, The Italian Daughter's Cookbook is, to me, when I read it, not just a cookbook. Believe me, it's got beautiful photographs of food that I remember as a little Calabrese girl that my mother and my grandmother used to make. So, and basically, what Cathy did was integrate pictures of her kind of life, and I found this to be the kind of a book that was not just a cookbook. It was sort of a love letter to her mother and to her family. And I found it to be really, really good. And the photography is also extremely good of these photographs that are so delicious. I mean, you could start making them, and some of them are easy enough to make, as she will tell you. So anyway, Cathy is also from her family's from the background of Reggio Calabria, Gioiosa. And ironically, that when we met at a luncheon, it turns out my father's family's from the same area, Gioiosa in Reggio Calabria. So we kind of had a little simpatico about this. So I would really like to introduce you to Cathy. And she's in her kitchen, and she will tell you how she wound up with the recipes, because like all Italian mothers and grandmothers, at least in a lot of our families, they never wrote a recipe down. It was in their head. And so she did a lot of work getting it together. So I'd like to introduce you to Cathy.
Thank you, Diana.
Okay.
Welcome to an afternoon in the Italian Daughter's Kitchen. I would like to thank Noya, Diana Famiglia, and Elena for organizing Cooking Like a Calabrese. I am honored to be here today. My memories of my mother's cooking inspired me to write the Italian Daughter's Cookbook. When I was growing up, everything was made from scratch and incredibly delicious. When my daughter Isabella was a young girl, I said to her, so many people wish they had their mother's recipes written down. If you help me, I promise you, I will either give you all the recipes in a binder or a book, but I promise recipes will come to you one day in a book. And she agreed. The journey took us about 10 years to do. Since nothing was ever written, and the Calabrese always hide their secrets, nobody is to know what the secret to the recipe is. I had to recreate all the recipes from memory, from the smell that I would smell waking up for Sunday sauce, from the look of the gravy. We never timed Sunday sauce. You would just go when the oil was about an inch and a half high. You knew the sauce was ready. If you put a roast beef or a piece of meat in the oven, when the whole house had that smell, that aroma, you knew that it was ready. So writing this book was such an ordeal. I mean, we would have to set timers, and sometimes I would forget to set the timer. I would say to her, write down, this is the beginning, this is the end. We never measured salt. Everything was measured in the palm of our hand. We would look at the palm of our hand and look at the pot, and that's how it would judge how much salt would go in. Pasta was never timed for al dente. You would just look at the pasta and know the pasta's ready or it's not. And cooking became second nature. But some of the harder recipes were difficult to make, like homemade bread. My mother made homemade bread on a weekly basis. but I would hear that sound when we would knead the bread with Isabella, and that like punching through the dough was just, it brought me back to when I was a child and we were able to recreate all the recipes. My mother came to this country in 1962. I'm the youngest of 6 children and the only American born. Our homeland is, as Diana said, Marina di Gioia Ionica in the province of Reggio Calabria. Reggio Calabria is one of the 5 provinces of Italy. All the recipes, I wouldn't say all 100%, but 90 to 95% of the recipes are just simple recipes with humble ingredients that create a delectable end product. The most important part of cooking with my book is really using high quality ingredients. You need to use good extra virgin olive oil. You need to use high quality peeled tomatoes. You need to use fresh basil, fresh garlic. Can't use dried garlic, dried basil. It's really that's the key. When you have simple recipes that have so few ingredients, the most important thing is having the high quality ingredients. And this is really, it's almost like a farm to table book. And the recipe that I chose to make today was one of my mother's go-to recipes whenever we would have company. It was pasta with soppressata. So while the Northerners make the same simple sauce with pancetta or with guanciale or with prosciutto, in Calabria, soppressata was in so much abundance. We always had soppressata in our house, either hanging in the garage or back in the day, we would, as a preserving for the soppressata, we would put it in buckets of olive oil. Believe it or not, when you put soppressata in a bucket of olive oil, the soppressata never absorbs any of the oil. It just stays moist for about, I'd say about up to 2 years. So the meat of choice for the calabrese was the soppressata. And now I would like to begin with the recipe and just show you how easy it is to make a sauce. This sauce will be ready in about 15 minutes. So the first ingredients for this sauce is soppressata. So this is a soppressata from Calabria Pork Store in the Bronx. And if you notice, it's not round like typical soppressatas, it's flat. So when I was growing up, we would make, in the winter months, we would make soppressata with my father and my mother. So what the Calabres do in order to eliminate any air pockets that go in the soppressata, after the salami, after the casing is filled, a plank goes on top of the salami to flatten it, and it takes the air out. And we're probably the only ones in Italy who make a soppressata in this manner. Any questions?
Not for the moment. Everyone is curious.
Everything was always hand cut. Nothing was pre-cut. Like I could have cut this last night, but no, you need to cut everything and saute. Everything needs to be as fresh as possible on the spot. So in order to make the sauce, we need about 8 slices of soppressata, and this is a spicy salami. But even though it is spicy and picante, the spice really doesn't come up in the tomato sauce.
One of the things, right, Cathy, is this is one of the recipes that if you're working and you come home, you can do it in a short time. Is that right?
Yes. This it takes about just as long to boil the pasta water as for the sauce to be made. I'd say at the most 10 minutes once it comes to a boil. So you don't want to cut it too thin because you're going to be frying the salami in the oil, the basil, and the onion.
Anyway, you're right, Cathy. Just in Calabria, we have soppressata. It's typical from Calabria.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next item that I'm going to be using, this is our label, Coluccio brand. They're DOP San Marzano tomatoes. So San Marzano tomatoes are one of the best tomatoes in all of Italy. And I'd say about 10 years ago, the Italian consortium came up with the DOP label, which is Denomination of Origin Protected. That means the raw material must be from that area in Italy. So the tomatoes must be grown in the San Marzano Valley, where you will see product of Italy, but the product of Italy, the tomatoes could be from Rome, and bought into the Soppressata. So when you're unsure of a product, always look for the DOP label, which is the red symbol on the tomatoes. Even though it says that the brand may be like La Bella Soppressata or the Soppressata in the name, it's not a genuine Soppressata unless it's stamped with the DOP logo. And the same with the olive oil. This is an extra virgin olive oil from Sicily, and again, it's a DOP. It's a denomination of origin protected from Monteoblè. So this is a single variety olive oil. When buying olive oils, don't just look for an Italian name. Read the label. So many olive oils could be packed in Italy, but the actual olives from the oil could be from Greece, Turkey, all over Italy. Those are low quality olive oils, and it's something you should try to avoid. By law, on the back of the label, it has to tell you where the oil, where the olives come from. So if you don't want to always look for the DOP label, which is going to cost a little bit more for the product, always look for an oil from a region. You want a Tuscan olive oil, you want a Ligurian olive oil, you want a Calabrese olive oil, you want Puglia. So at least you know that the olives are from that small area and it's an authentic product. The other thing is that you should always read the labels and look at the expiration date on the back of the olive oil. The saying goes, olio fresco, vino vecchio. So you're always looking for an old wine, an aged wine, but olive oil should always be as fresh as possible. So by law, olive oil has an 18-month expiration date from the day that it's packed. So the closer the expiration date to when you're buying it, the better you are, because you're going to have a fresher oil. What happens when the oil gets closer to the expiration date, even though it doesn't go bad, once the oil comes in contact with air, it oxidizes and the oil tends to go rancid quicker than a fresher oil does. Always smell the oil. It's like wine. When you smell the oil, you smell the you could smell the olives, you could smell where it's from. I could smell the difference between a northern oil and a southern oil. So the northern oils are lighter, it has more of a peppery taste. The southern oils are stronger and heavier olive oils. And the last thing is the pasta. So the pasta is an IGP, which is different than a DOP. So the DOP symbol is the red symbol. The IGP symbol is a blue symbol. So IGP is Indicazione Grafica Protettata. So IGP is a lesser standard than a DOP. The raw material doesn't have to be from the actual land. So this pasta is an IGP Gragnano. It's made in Gragnano, but the wheat doesn't have to be from that area. It has to be made with certain criteria. So the pastas are all, you really don't find any DOP pastas. The pastas are all IGP. The balsamic vinegars are IGP. I mean, I think these are great standards when shopping to look for if you're not sure on which brand to buy, because there's so much fraudulence in the markets, especially with olive oil. So olive oil price has I'd say at least doubled since pre-COVID times, where pre-COVID you could get a bottle of olive oil for about $15 a liter, a good quality oil. Right now, for a good quality single variety or from a particular region, you're looking at $30 or better for a liter of oil. So the prices have gone up on oils tremendously, because last year there was I'm not sure if it was last year or the year prior to that, there was a heat wave in Europe where the temperatures in Greece and in Sicily, the temperatures were over 100 and they burnt all of the olive crop. So then they had predicted that eventually the prices will come down, but like everything else, once the market accepts a certain price, it's very difficult for the prices to come back down. And now I will start my cooking. So the water is on the stove. I always start with a cold pot. So the reason I start with the cold pot is because the oil takes the flavor of whatever you're seasoning it with. So the rule of thumb when making a quick sauce, if you're making a fish sauce, you're gonna use parsley and garlic. If you're making a tomato sauce with meat or with a salami, it's always basil and onion. So when I grew up, we never pre-cut anything, and all of our onions, garlic, whatever it was always cut over the stove. And everything was cut in thick slices so that the onion or the garlic would not burn. One of the worst things you could do in cooking is burn the garlic or the onion. It completely will ruin the end result of the dish. That burnt taste will come up.
Kathy, they are asking for the name of the brand of the pasta you showed before.
Okay, so this is a Liguri, pasta Liguri. It's an IGP. What I'm going to be making today, because I like this particular cut. This is Ercole. It's not an IGP, but it's an excellent pasta with a 14-hour drying time. And I just want to show you the color of the pasta. So if you could see the color of the pasta, do you see that pale white color?
Yes.
So that's how you could tell it's a slowly dried pasta. If the pasta is yellow, it's a low quality pasta. It means that it was a quick drying time. This is a slow dry bronze cut pasta. You really shouldn't pay more than $3 to $5 for pasta. I mean, I know there's these crazy prices on pasta, but it's all money in marketing and not the actual quality of the pasta. I mean, I have my limits on certain things, and with pasta, I think $5 should be the limit.
Thank you.
And the salt of choice when cooking, I only use sea salt. Sea salt is not as salty as regular salt. So even though the sea salt is a little bit more expensive per bag, it's definitely worth it. Once you get used to sea salt, you will taste the difference between a regular salt and a sea salt. And the last thing that I do in all my sautés is I add hot pepper. So everyone thinks that the Calabrese use crushed red pepper galore. I don't think we ever had crushed red pepper in the kitchen. So all of my sautés go with like 2 or 3 hot peppers. It doesn't create a hot dish unless at the end that you smash it and all the heat comes out, but it adds a flavor to the oil sauté. So I'm going to throw this in the sauté. I'm going to give it a little mix.
Kathy, also, I have another question about the pasta. There is Barbara who is asking if the cookbook recommends a particular brand of pasta, or if it's just the suggestions that you gave to us.
No, I didn't want to suggest any brands because I felt like it looked like I was sponsoring the companies was sponsoring my cookbook. So that's why throughout the book, I always say use high quality ingredients. But this Liguri is an excellent pasta. Gragnano became an IGP probably about 5 years ago, which is the area in Naples where most of the pasta is made from. But this other pasta that I'm cooking with today, this is from Le Marche region. And on the package, it reads slow cook time, bronze dye. But even if you don't read anything, just look at the color. You're looking at a nice pale, like whitish color on the pasta.
Thank you.
So my onion is softening. If you were here, you would smell the basil. And once the onion begins to soften, I add the soppressata. I'm on a medium-high heat. And what we're looking to do is just like slightly fry the soppressata or get it to a medium brown color. So the oil is taking all the flavor of the salami.
Too bad we cannot smell
This
your
is-
kitchen. I'm pretty jealous.
I'm not a gadget person, but the only gadget I use in the kitchen is the basa verdura. This was a gift from my mother about 30 years ago. So if I was making this as an informal sauce, I would just take the tomatoes right out of the can and in the pan, just break them up with a fork. But when I was growing up, it was improper to serve company tomatoes straight out of the can. Everything had to go through the basa verdura, which gave you a nice, clean sauce. So what we do is we put I just want to show you the tomatoes, how you could tell that this is a genuine soppressata before I put them in the sauce. I took the pan off because it's gonna burn. But this is what a San Marzano tomato looks like. So it's a long tomato, and in here there's a slight indent. If it was a tomato from Rome, this size would be straight down all the way to the end. So by looking at the tomato, you could actually tell where the tomato is from. So this right over the pan. And then we always, whatever's left in the can, we never wasted anything. We would always put a drop of water in and clean the can with water. Put it through. And then take anything that's left at the bottom. Give it a nice mix, and I'd say about 10 minutes. At the same time, I'm going to add the pasta in. So quick tomato sauces, I usually don't cover or semi-cover them because you want the water to evaporate in the tomato. Next, I'm going to measure my salts. This is, I always use coarse sea salt from Sicily. It's one of my favorite salts. So what I find is that the finer sea salts, because of the humidity in the salt, the finer sea salts tend to clump together, where the thicker sea salts don't. So I look at the pot. This is my measuring. And I'd say about that much is enough for a pot of water. And I continue to cook this on a slow simmer. Any questions?
Not so far. Diana, do you have any memories coming up seeing?
I have a lot of memories when I opened the cookbook and I saw, as I was telling Cathy, the flour fritters that were, oh, now I can't find the page. How about that? That were a memory of my grandma, who had a friend who had all kinds of vegetables in her garden, and she would share them with grandma sometimes because grandma had only a smaller space. She had a larger space. And every year these come out sort of in the warmer weather. And if you find them in a restaurant, they're a fortune, but they are the flour, and then they're fried in oil. But the bottom line is I will let Cathy talk about something that really took a lot of effort There's the down to the desserts and the fig turnovers that my grandmothers used to make. One made them with the figs, one made them with more raisins, and they all made them with nuts. I'm sure that you, if you're a Calabrese, you probably saw that. And then there was always the baked figs with the almonds or walnuts. And I mean, it was kind of a nostalgia trip going through the book. And yeah, the fig cookies, they call them the fig cookies, but you can't see this here. But if you get the book, the photos are really, really great. And they were done by someone locally, weren't they, Cathy? The photographer?
The photographer was a friend of mine, Daniel Paterna. He had previously written a book about Brooklyn called The Feast of the Seven Fishes. So I approached him. I said, Dan, would you like to go into a project together? I says, where you would be the photographer for my cooking. And we immediately hit it off. And he came to my house on Saturdays, probably for about 3 months. And we would make about 10 to 12 recipes each time he would come. And he would say, Cathy, he said, I want you to plate the recipes. I want the recipes to look like they came out of your hands and not something that's done by a stylist. So all the recipes were all made for me. And he actually captured my love of food. And the background, when we started, he said, what are we going to do as a background? And I said to him, I must have a few hundred tablecloths that my mother would bring in from Italy as I was growing up that she wanted to gift me. So most of the tablecloths that are used in the background are the tablecloths that were a gift of my mother, from my mother. And the dishes, I'd say about 20% of the dishes, 30% of the dishes are either my mother-in-law's Esther Fazzolari, who's also from Calabria, or from my mother. So we really wanted this book to be authentic and a trip down memory lane and what it was like growing up in Brooklyn in the 70s and 80s.
Cathy, they are asking you if which is the difference between cooking as a Calabrese or as a Siciliana. So the Sicilian and the Calabrian styles. Can you tell us how they differ?
We add that hot pepper and that dash of spicy to everything. I mean, if the sauce doesn't have a little bit of that spiciness to it, it's not Calabrese. The same as salami. I don't think any Calabrese could eat a salami that's not picante. So I really think it's the picante. And the other thing that the Sicilians do, which the Calabrese don't, they cook with raisins and pignoli. That's something that we just don't do.
Yeah, because probably they have a strong Arab influence, right, in their traditions. Right. So yeah. this comes.
We also have. We also do, but I guess it's what was abundant in our area or in our land. Like eggplant is common to both areas, but we make our carbonata different than the Sicilians make their carbonata. So the Sicilians they add sugar, they add olives, they add vinegar. The Calabrese make a carbonata or a ratatouille with just peppers and potatoes. It's just slight differences, but that you'll find even within Calabria. If you go from Reggio to Cosenza to Catanzaro, there's going to be differences in the way everything is made.
Amazing.
Yeah, I noticed the subtleties because my father's family was from Reggio and Gioia Ionica, and my mother's family, who came very, very at the end of the 1800s, they came from Catanzaro, a small little town. And this is one of my favorite Italian dishes, the zucchini flour fritters. They're delicious. If you have this book, I mean, you're gonna fall in love with some of these recipes, and it is a real nostalgia trip because as much as I remember liking some of this stuff as a kid, lately you don't see some of it in some of the restaurants. They tend to give you all kinds. But every time these fritters come in the spring and the summer in a restaurant, my family and I, we kind of leap to make sure we buy them and we have them, no matter how much they want, and they are. but they're a really pleasant memory from my childhood. So
Another thing that we never do is we never slice our garlic when we saute. We always put our garlic in whole. Where Americans have become fascinated with this brown garlic. I don't think I've ever seen a piece of brown garlic in my life in Italy. It's one of the worst thing you could do if you would like to ruin the end result of your dish is to brown or burn the garlic. And one way to avoid the browning or the burning of the garlic is to put it in whole and take it out at the end. And that's what I do with all my dishes. The garlic is added in whole and taken out at the end. This should be about ready.
if you haven't purchased the cookbook yet, you can get it through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and also a place in Boston, I Am Books, that gives us a 10% discount. Maybe Elena, who's dealt with them a bit, can let us know how to deal with that.
Yeah, I already put the links in chat, and I will at the end of the session, so everyone can take notes.
The place is I Am Books is a place that really deals with all Italian authors and information. So
yeah.
And the book is also available at Rizzoli on Broadway in Manhattan.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
Italian bookstore. They have they're also selling the book.
The Flatiron one, right?
Right,
Yeah.
the one in Flatiron.
Okay.
That's good to know. So I wish I could smell your cooking
Oh,
over here. It's getting near lunch. So and this is one of the recipes I think that Cathy mentioned that could be done. You know, you come home from work, you're kind of tired, but you want to eat something nice, and you could do it in 10-15 minutes, right, Cathy? Amongst and there's a whole section there on those recipes.
So I have a whole section on quick pasta sauces that could all be made with the amount of time really that it takes to boil the pasta. Like my pasta and broccoli, when my kids were living at home with me, that was a staple once a week, where we just chop up a head of broccoli in the water. As soon as the water comes to a boil with the broccoli, you add your pasta in there, drain the both together, and then just top with grated cheese and fresh olive oil. My mother was big on topping with fresh olive oil. All of our vegetables were called, in Calabrese dialect, it was called scaldata, which means boiled. But here, everyone thinks that you need to saute your vegetables in oil and garlic to get the health benefits. The real health benefits is to give your vegetables a slight boil and top with a high quality extra virgin olive oil. I mean, I always love when I go to Italy and you look at the menu and they have verdura bollita. I said, you've never seen that in America, which is basically boiled vegetables. And boiled vegetables are really so healthy. I have probably 3 or 4 boiled vegetables recipes in the book. And you just see you blanch them or you boil them in the right amount of water. You don't want to put too much water or not enough water. The key is just the right amount of water. And just cook them to your desired tenderness. So I used to think back in the day, my mom was OCD clean. I used to think that she would boil the vegetables because she wanted to make sure all the dirt was out of it. But it's just a more flavorful way and a healthier way of eating vegetables. Sauteing vegetables in garlic and oil does not have the health benefits. And olive oil has the best health benefits in its as a raw product and not reheated.
And which is the right amount of water to boil vegetables? It's like half the pan?
Half the pan, that's exactly it. So if you have, let's say, broccoli rabe or escarole, you have that much escarole, I would do that much water. It's always about half the pan in size.
Do you also used to save the water in which you boil your vegetables? Because I know that sometimes people do. So because it's very rich in vitamins, right? So I don't know if you save it and do.
Yeah, so I do one recipe that I do is Swiss chard with potatoes and cannellini beans. So when I saute the garlic and the oil, what I do is I add some of the water from the vegetables. So you don't get that heavy garlic flavor. You get a light fry with it. And then I add my potatoes and I add the Swiss chard.
Okay.
So the vegetable water, the same as with pasta water, is great
Yeah.
for certain recipes, especially if you're adding a potato to your vegetable. The vegetable water is great when you do the mix.
Yeah, because the potatoes tend to dry everything, right? Because
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So the potato starch gives it a nice flavor.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think my pasta should almost be cooked. The sauce is cooked. As you can see, the oil has risen to the top. So if you look at the sides, you see that the oil is at the top, and that's how you could really much between the smell and the oil at the top. That's how you know that the sauce is ready. The pasta, you want to take it out. It should look about like this. You want it to be al dente because we're going to finish cooking it in the pot for an additional minute or two with the sauce. So it takes the flavor of the sauce. So sometimes you want the pasta water when you're mixing pasta with sauce. You always want the pasta to be drained very, very well.
As I, you know, I'm Italian, but I have friends who are not Italian. And when we talk about our comfort food, it's always pasta. It's so funny. It's the thing that makes me feel good. And I think it's very funny to hear some of my friends who are nowhere near Italian and says, "Oh, that's my comfort food too." And I said, "I hope you have a good recipe." Oh, I'm just looking. There's the different sauces that and the pictures. Oh, these are just so beautiful. And I know one is very popular, the shrimp sauce. And here's the tomato sauce with soppressata. This is just a beautiful book. And the photography was good. You could tell your friend his photography was great.
Thank you. So
And then something, I guess, simple enough is the pasta with the ricotta.
That was our go-to. So the key to that one is just use the ricotta in the tin, which is it's like a home style ricotta, and making it with capellini pasta, which cooks in about a minute or two.
Yeah.
So when you're drinking pasta, you always want to make sure you take all the water out. And then what I do is we put the pasta back into the pasta pot. We don't throw the pasta into the sauce pot, but what we do is we add the sauce to the pasta pot. In case there's any remaining sauce or you want to add to your dish, you always have the sauce. So I put this back on the stove, turn the heat back on.
Cathy, they are asking if the Calabrian cooking uses seafood as well.
Oh, yeah.
Seafood. If there are recipes with seafood in the Calabrian tradition.
There's one in the book here.
Okay.
Poached halibut, baked swordfish. I have a very large, and then the obvious, the bacala and the stockle. But they could huge seafood dish, and some very simple dishes like the halibut, the poached halibut. All you're doing is boiling some water and seasoning the water with garlic, parsley, and a fresh tomato, and then you put your halibut pieces in there and just cook it until the water completely evaporates and the fish is cooked, and then you just top it with extra virgin olive oil. So a lot of the dishes are really simple, healthy dishes.
This is why Italians live for so long, right?
My grandmother lived to be 101. So this here is cooked. You see how we finished it in the pot, but look at how much sauce is left over. So if I would have thrown the pasta into the saucepan, I would have used all of the sauce. Now I have extra sauce that could be used either for a later time, making maybe another half a pound of pasta, or to put on the table so that everybody could top whoever wants additional sauce to their pasta. Now I'm going to.
Cathy has a great kitchen for cooking. Not all of us are so lucky. Does anyone have any other questions?
No, not for the moment.
Mhm.
We are waiting for the, yes, here we go.
I met Cathy at one of the Noya luncheons several years ago. She was introduced to me by a Noya board member and a current board member, and her name is Angela Mazzarelli. Angela
Yes,
is
yes. Hi,
is a
Angela.
judge, and she's the one. She said to me, "You know that Cathy wrote a cookbook." I said, "Really?" So I talked to Cathy, and I said, this would be great if we could do something for our members and non-members, anyone who's interested in cooking, and especially when I knew it was Calabrese cooking, because I had already met Cathy. I thought this is a real nostalgia trip. And so when my nephew, who's a cook, I mean, he's 30 years old, and he says to me, he's always making dishes, and he'll invite his parents and me. And I have to tell you, he's half Swedish too. So he makes delicious food. I mean, I'm a bit embarrassed about how much better he is than I am. I'm pretty sure there's some things I could make that mom used to make that were really good, but mom used to cook and I was in school, so it was even when she baked, but you have I have fond memories of the good food that we always had. So I'm sure some of you do. I wonder how many of you are Calabrese in the group. Yeah. Or is it you just like Italian food,
Diana, did your family fry the meatballs before putting them in the sauce, or they would put them in uncooked?
What, the sausage? And
The
the
meatballs.
meatballs. Yeah, that was a contention. My mother would put them in and not cook or fry them or anything before.
Right, that's how my mother did it.
Yeah, and my uncle said, you didn't brown them. And he was like, I know how to do this. And my other aunt said, oh, mind your own business. When did you become a cook? You never looked at what mom or grandma did. So yeah, no, mom didn't. And you know what?
Yeah.
I don't, and neither does my sister-in-law now.
The taste of the sauce is just incredible with uncooked meatballs. It's just a slow. The key there is just making a small meatball. The meatball can't be larger than a golf ball,
Oh yeah.
because if
Yeah.
not, the center will never cook. But a slow simmer, and then you just add a little bit of water after you clean the cans of the tomatoes. With
Oh
some,
yeah. Always. I do that right now. I mean, I do that all the time. I said, oh, we can't have it stuck in there.
right.
It's
Cathy, just a last question. They're asking where can you get the special to crush the tomatoes?
So it's called a vegetable mill. I'm sure online you could find it. We sell it in our store. If you call our store, we could ship it to you UPS. But I'm more than certain that it can be found online. Just look up vegetable mill, Italian vegetable mill, and that vegetable mill is also very good for mashed potatoes. So when we would make the zeppelis, our zeppeli recipe is equal amounts of flour and potatoes, but the potatoes have to be mashed very fine, and it's through the vegetable mill. And the vegetable mill comes with three bottom pieces. I always use the thicker grind, the thicker piece of the three on the bottom. They're very inexpensive. They shouldn't be more than $20 to $30. If you're in Manhattan, I'm sure Italy has it, or through their website, they probably also have it.
Thank you.
Zeppeli, there's something else I miss.
Those are a lot of work.
I know, my mother used to tell me.
Those were a lot of work. My
Uh.
mother would make them Christmas Eve after making dinner and cooking for 20, 30 people. And then about 11:30, start frying zeppelis till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. My mother seemed to be the cook that invited everybody in the family. She was the one. I said, maybe it's because you were the better cook, Ma.
That's that's why my house was always the to-go house. Everybody always loved the cooking. Nobody ever says no to an invite here.
Uh,
So this is done, and look at how beautiful it looks. We did this.
yeah, and I'm hungry. Can you
in
put it
November.
through?
We all are hungry.
Any other questions, folks?
Do you grate any cheese on that?
So I'm personally, this may sound anti-Italian, I'm not personally a fan of grated cheese on my sauce. I love grated cheese in my soups, in my minestras, in my cream sauces, if I make like a fettuccine Alfredo. But I usually serve the cheese on the table and everybody puts cheese on top of their pasta. My cheese of choice is Parmigiano Reggiano,
Yeah.
which again is a DOP, denomination of origin protected. It's produced in 5 provinces in Italy. It has to be aged a minimum of 20 months. The milk has to be from one of those areas. That's my cheese of choice. My mother-in-law was a big pecorino person. She would put pecorino on all of her meals. The difference is that the pecorino is a lot saltier. And it's also the fat content of all your cheeses, whether it's sheep's milk, cow's milk, or goat's milk. Sheep has the highest amount of fat, so it's a heavier cheese, and I find that the pecorino overpowers the dishes. I think that the Parmigiano is a much lighter cheese, but in my book I have use your cheese of choice, whether it be Parmigiano, pecorino, or grana padano. The same back in Calabria was sometimes the Calabrese would use both cheeses, the pecorino and the Parmigiano, and it would be pecorino per ripieni, Parmigiano per la pasta, which means pecorino for stuffing. So you would use your stuffed eggplants, your stuffed mushrooms, anything that's stuffing and you want that little bit of tang to it, you would use a pecorino. But on top of your pasta, you would like a delicate cheese, and it would always be the Parmigiano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure everybody's hungry now. Maybe they're gonna go and make your sauce. Do we have any other questions?
Now I'm putting in the chat again the links where you can find the book. Also, I'm putting our website address in case the ones who don't know about Noya so much, so you can take a look.
Oh, and also Cathy mentioned another place that has it that she recently, right, Cathy?
Right.
Oh, Italy, right?
Oh, Italy?
No, Italy for the pasta verdura, for the vegetable milk.
Oh, no,
and-
another bookstore.
For the bookstore, Rizzoli.
Ah, Rizzoli, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm putting it, yeah.
Will we be holding more live cooking classes? I don't know. We got to get somebody that's as good as Cathy. We've had some chefs come and talk to us, but I think
But-
Cathy did a great job at this, really.
Yeah, actually, there are some people asking if we are going to have more cooking classes in the future. We will. Let us get organized. Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Do any of you have the book already?
Yeah, Angela is the book.
Yeah.
Angela,
I
if
have
you
the
want
book.
to say something, you unmute because you are on mute now.
Angela has also made a few of the recipes.
I'm sorry?
Angela has also made a few of the recipes. Hi, Angela.
Yes. Yes, I have. I've made several of the recipes. The two favorite ones that I've made is, and they are amazingly delicious. I think I can cook fairly well. My mother taught me how to cook, but she was from Northern Italy, and this is a very different way of cooking. And I made Cathy's recipe with the rice, with the zucchini and the carrot, and it was absolutely delicious. I said, "Gee whiz, this risotto can't come out without broth," and it was fabulous. And I also made the stuffed one, the baked one. Cathy, how do you call that?
Oh, the Annalette Siciliane.
Yes.
That's the only Sicilian recipe I have in the book. Annalette Siciliane.
And it was just, I called in my nephew and my sister and my husband. Everybody was just amazed at how delicious everything was. So it's a beautiful book, and I urge you all to give it a try. It's fun, and beautiful stories. I think that the
Exactly.
story that you have of your family is very touching and very lovely. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And she does thank her husband and her three children. Isabella is the one who really, really helped her along, but all of her family was heavily involved in doing this. And I just think that the whole story is very sweet. How she you know stayed with mom to cooking and everything. And she was the little American, right, Cathy, in the whole
Yes.
family. La
My mother was not going to have an Americanized daughter. She was going to know how to cook.
It reminds me, Cathy, of I started to cook with my mother when I was 5 years old. And it was my favorite thing that I could do. And it reminds me of that too. It's a beautiful story.
We have a last question for you, Cathy, and they're asking if you used to cook wine cookies, because there is a person whose mother used to cook wine cookies, so she wants to know if you.
We never made wine cookies, but we would make vino cotto to make the fig cookies that Diana described a little while ago. So in November, we would get gallons of fresh squeezed grape juice and cook it to about a fourth of the amount, and use this vino cotto in making the fig cookies. But that's the only cookie that we made with the wine.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
right, I forgot that.
So when there were many families that came to America in the 60s and 70s, now vino cotto you could find in any specialty stores, but in the 60s or 70s, there was no vino cotto here in the United States. And if you didn't make wine at home, you couldn't make vino cotto because it had to be that day that the wine was squeezed. So you know what Americans adapted to be similar to vino cotto? Bosco, the chocolate syrup. So it was how we adapted, how the Italian Americans adapted in the 60s and 70s when the ingredients was not available here in the States. And that's why some of the recipes have changed through the years, because they couldn't find the original ingredients and they would have to adapt to whatever we had here in this country.
No, they adapted very well. You know, it's funny how my niece and nephew just talk about Nona's didn't taste like this. Nona's was different. We like Nona's better, especially with the lentil soup, you know. It's always I don't know, very nostalgic to me today. Not just informative, but nostalgic.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that this is it, since the pasta is ready, so everyone wants to have a bite.
Yeah, we'll have to dream about it now.
Yeah, exactly. I wish everyone who would like to be in your kitchen now, Cathy.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. I think this was one of our really lovely programs and so interactive, and I'm really happy that you came. So thank you very much. And for those who are interested in Noya, I see there were a number of them that are not members. You know, we do a lot of different programming, and we invite you to join us. And every year we have an annual luncheon. It's a fundraiser luncheon, and that's going to be on May 3rd. And the invitations have gone out and everything, but if anyone's interested in finding out more about Noya, we have Elena in the office. She's our mainstay over there, and she can help you out.
Yeah. And also the website, as I said, noya.org. I added the address in the chat. So go to the website, call the office, and whatever we can to help you find out more about us. I'm glad to help.
Well, I'm glad you could all join us, and I am really happy that Cathy was able to do this for us, because I think it was fun as well as informative. And I have to thank Angela for telling me, hey, you know, Cathy wrote a cookbook. So thank you. And we hope to see some of you in the future.
Yes. So thank you, everybody. Have
Thank
a
you.
nice weekend. Have a nice weekend, everybody. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you again.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you,
Bye.
Diana. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Diana. Bye, bye, yo. Bye.